Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of my legislation, H.R. 3277, Energy Emergency Leadership Act. Working with my good friend, Representative Lisa Blunt Rochester, this bipartisan legislation was introduced to help address an ever-growing need. We live in a world where energy infrastructure is constantly facing threats. As we become more reliant on technology in all aspects of our grid, its importance to understand the magnitude of the risks associated with this dependence. We face the persistent threat of cyber attacks like the Colonial Pipeline, which paralyzed multiple regions of our country for an entire week in 2021. Our energy infrastructure is the most targeted critical infrastructure sector, facing 39% of cyber incidents. The sophistication and sheer numbers of cyber attacks are growing by the year. But these aren't the only threats. In addition, our energy systems become increasingly more complex. They have also become more vulnerable to all manner of hazards, including natural disasters, physical attacks, and global shortages. According to the Wall Street Journal, physical attacks on energy infrastructure catapulted by 71% from 2021 to 2022. We need to make sure the Department of Energy is properly equipped to combat these threats and respond in case of an emergency. The FAST Act provided the DOE with several new energy security authorities to respond to physical and cyber attacks to our critical energy infrastructure. The Trump administration built on this authority by creating the Office of Cybersecurity and Energy Security Emergency Response, or CESAR. This legislation would amend the Department of Energy Organization Act to require the Secretary of Energy to assign energy emergency and energy security functions to an Assistant Secretary of CESAR, including responsibilities concerning infrastructure and cybersecurity. Strengthening our cyber defense and emergency response capabilities in the energy sector has never been more important. We must do everything we can to protect energy reliability, and this bipartisan legislation is a simple yet effective step that needs to be taken. For too long, the Department of Energy's emergency functions have long been oriented around oil supply shocks, but defense and response to physical and cyber attacks have not been defined as a clear function. This can lead to downstream effects causing confusion and complications to the department seeking to address the threats. This legislation would help elevate energy, emergency, and cybersecurity responsibilities as a core function for the department and better protect our grid and critical. Thank you.
The gentleman yields.
And better protect our grid and critical energy infrastructure. It will strengthen coordination across the department, ensure more effective interagency communication, and increase accountability to Congress and the American people. We live in a modern world with modern threats requiring modern solutions. H.R. 3277 is a necessary response to these threats. Last Congress, the Energy Emergency Leadership Act passed the House with overwhelming support from members on both sides of the aisle. Since then, threats have only increased, the stakes have risen, and there is consensus to get this done. I urge my colleagues to support this common sense legislation, and I yield back.